far as the construction update, we're still in the restoration phase, so there's a little bit of hydro seeding going on. They won't be planting any trees till fall, which I mentioned, and you had asked for a specific, I mentioned it to the project team, the environmentalists, that they would be constructing individual plans for the restoration on those construction sites. So they don't have that yet, but they said they would be giving me some information down the road. So nothing on paper is, most of the information is pretty general in the HMMP, but they're working on the individual property plans.
Okay, I appreciate that, because the EIR, indicated for every juniper you take out, you got to replace it unless it's going to be a permanently impacted area. And most areas are not permanently impacted. And the big problem we had was that there was no inventory of what was there before. So the question remains for us, and I think Catherine, your neighborhood as well. Mm-hmm. If you don't know how many were there before, how do you know how many put in now? So
right.
We're sort of curious as to how that's going to fall out. But it sounds like you will be putting in junipers, because at one point it was just going to be grasses, which was...
I'm not sure, I won't say one way or the other, because I haven't seen it, any kind of inventory list or anything. I know they will be doing, some planting. They are doing sprays of native seeds right now, mixed in with the hydro seeding. So I talked to them actually this morning. This was part of ongoing conversation since last week. And so I said, I need to know, and they said we're in the construction basic phase of putting those plans together, and then they'll go ahead and give me some details. So they do, I think they took pictures of the projects beforehand, so they have pictures, I believe, of each of the properties. So that kind of gives them some guidelines, but I don't know if there was an actual inventory of the trees that were taken out, so I'll find out what I can. But overall, we're going to be just doing some telecom wire pulls into the Vincent substation. There's going to be night monitoring with the red-legged frogs in the Aliso Canyon area this week on Thursday, I believe. So I sent out the notification last week. If you guys have any questions or suspicious vehicles, I still get calls. And now our security site is not on site anymore. There's no one really on site anymore. So I'm going to be directing those calls to Deputy Short. I did get a call, and I was going to mention it to you, Catherine, about motorcycles. Is Deputy Short your contact for the motorcycles?
Sergeant Acton.
Acton? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'll start whenever I get calls in that regard. I'll send them. There was a couple of people on the motorcycles on Aliso Canyon on the access roads this last week. So Mr. Bragg had sent me that information. So I'll go ahead and forward it, and people know that at least they can route things through me, and I'll be glad to push them forward, because I know we are working on getting our real properties people are working on getting no trespassing signs, because the Deputy Short had mentioned, and we've also spoken to other law enforcement about if there's no sign, they can't recognize the roads from trails. And so we're going to try to keep working on our corporate heads to see if we can get no trespassing signs, or at least these are Edison access roads. So then the deputies have some kind of foundation to make any kind of charges against the trespasser. So we're working on that, and other than that, it's fairly quiet. So if you have any questions, feel free. We did have an outage this last week in Aliso Canyon. I don't usually advertise outages, because that just leaves an open door for people to know what areas are out. But they did 7 polls in one day rather than have 7 outages, so they were trying to be conservative in that respect. I apologize, I know outages are not convenient for anybody, but they are trying to cut back and do bulk work, so there's less outages rather than have multiple outages. So, and like I said, you'll get the individual notices, but I won't ever put that information in an email to broadcast areas being out of power. So, and then one more thing, the engineers will be looking at the Juniper Ridge Road where we have the helipad.
Okay.
They should be out here this week, and
great.
I told them, I said, perfect, because we just had a storm. You can see how things are going, and then we'll touch base with the road that's going up there. Is it compacting a little bit, the road, the hump? So they're gonna check that out this week. So, okay, any questions or?
I have a very quick question.
Sure.
There was a power outage in my area about 3 weeks ago.
Was it a planned outage, do you know? Or was it
You know
emergent?
what, it had to have been because normally I would get a notification in the mailbox.
Right.
And I never got the notification in the mailbox, but I got a phone call on my answering machine, which I never check messages.
Okay.
So is that something new you guys are doing?
They're trying to be utilizing more than one method of notifying people of outages. And even, did they mention it was emergency outage, or
They just said that it was a routine power outage.
Okay,
and
so-
the thing that affected me was that I think I had checked the messages on Thursday night. Friday, I didn't come home till late. I went to bed. Saturday morning, I got up, and as I walked in my office, because I had a bunch of guys come to the house to work, I saw the light blinking. I checked, and it says, your power will be going out this morning at 9, and then the power went out, because it was 9:04.
They're trying to utilize more than one method. The old method, the very old method, was door hangers. So we don't have the personnel anymore in the field. We used to have meter readers, put those on the doors. And so, you know, out in the rural areas, by the time you get that door hanger be blown away, you know, they weren't very reliable. So then they used the mail out, and now we're utilizing our automatic call system. And then the really good resource is the outage center. So sometimes if your power goes out and you didn't get a notice, you can go on outage center, which there's an app for your phone, or you can get on your computer if you have a charge, of course. But you can go on there and see what the duration is expected to be, and as well the cause, you know, if it's emergent.
I think one of the issues there is most of us don't have good phone service. If you do, the phone works, you won't have your 4G. The computers aren't going to be working, and I only had a 48-hour notice of this power outage, and you guys must be scheduling it more than 48 hours in advance.
Yes, we
So
do.
I just want to know, what is your standard advance
The
notice?
construction project team will submit an outage as far as, you know, 4 weeks in advance. The notices will go out after they get all the switching procedures approved. Then they go ahead and notify the public, and that's usually a week in advance. So you may not get a notice on Sunday or Saturday, but you'll get the mail notice on Monday for possibly Friday or Saturday. And we do have a lot of contract crews working because the bulk of the deteriorated poles is huge. I mean, we have a lot of work to do, and to be compliant with CPC, it's all deteriorated pole program.
Well,
So
just let them know, one of their notifications didn't work, and the other one was only 48 hours, so it did create a little bit of an instance.
I'm sorry.
But okay, thank you.
Anyways, you try utilizing that outage.com if you ever, SCE.com/outage, because if we ever have a major emergency and you really want to know what's going on, I mean, it will be very difficult to get instant information, but, you know, the CHP, what's it called? There's a couple of resources. I'll have to bring some more. It's other resources. I'll talk to Deputy Short. But to get the pages on your phone, at least you'll know what the capacity of the emergency is. You know how wide it is. When we have outages, it could be. I mean, emergency outages. If it happens at the substation, it could be a large swath of people. So
Right,
it's
well,
good to know.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I
Thank you.
ask one quick question? You're talking about the steel fire hardening program, right?
What was that?
These outages are from the fire hardening program, wood steel?
No,
program?
they're just doing like-for-like replacements, and it's mostly those deteriorated poles that either, you know, they're cracked woodpeckers,
Oh, they're replacing them with wood?
yes, the wood for wood, and whatever is the like-for-like is pretty much what they're doing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is not part of the fire hardening program that you talked about a while ago?
Yeah, this is just on distribution level, and this is
Okay.
just deteriorated poles,
Okay,
like-for-like, pretty
okay.
much. I mean, they make.
So no 69, it's all like 12 or something? Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's the 12, 16, 4 kV level, yeah. Thank you.
From a landscape architect. He was a very nice gentleman, and he was asking me to identify the trees on the sidewalk in front of the Shell station. I said, I have no idea what kind of trees those are. When I asked him what it was about, he said that he was working on a landscape design for a new development. I said, which one? And he said, the Primo Burger. So I then kind of switched the conversation around and asked him a few questions and said, so how's that going? He said that they are fully submitted. I said, is there a drive-through on your plans? He said, he was kind of looking at him over the phone. He said, well, I don't really see one identified as such. I says, well, that would be good news for us. And he says, but you can call the architect and ask him. And I says, okay, well, we'll look into it. But as far as...
Give you the contact information?
he called back with the architect's name, not a phone number, which would be the same.
You probably call the planner and get the same information on.
But they are, just for our own information, they are fully submitted. We're not sure if it's with or without a drive-through. But just to let us know, they are going forward.
Did they say who the planner was, or give you a case number or anything?
No, he didn't know any of that.
We'll just throw that on the pile of things we
Yeah.
look at it.
I've got the planner, I've got the planner information at home from when I contacted them last. I'll have to check on my computer and find out which planner it is.
Okay, so it would be, all right.
They did the country club.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well, then I probably, if the planner hasn't changed, then I probably have a.
Yeah, that's.
yeah, the landscape architect didn't seem like he was too much above just the plants. When I asked him if there was a drive-through, he says, it doesn't look like they can drive through to the other properties. I said, no, the window to get the food. So I wasn't gonna get too much out of him, I didn't think.
Of course, we're assuming it's on the same property and they haven't decided to go on some other property.
They've been on 3 so
I know.
far, so.
That's a point.
Okay.
They're going through, I think that country club's got to be involved in.
Unless it's on a different parcel.
Right, because they've tried 3 different parcels now.
They had said they weren't going to be on Country Club feet if it didn't have a driveway. That's why they might
But
not.
we'll check. People say a lot of things, obviously. And they do specifically.
Is that, are you talking about Taco Bell? Is
No.
there a Taco Bell, have you heard, there's a rumor, I haven't heard anything, so is there a Taco Bell being built?
We haven't heard of it.
Where Country Club is now?
They had presented to us months and months ago, and they were soundly told to go away. So we've heard nothing since then.
Are they moving, are Country Club moving or building across the city?
That's their plan.
I think they own that property.
But there's no plan for Taco Bell?
As I said, they presented months and months ago, but nothing we've heard definitive
But
since.
something could be, I mean, there could be a million projects submitted down. There's 3 I'm looking at right now that the
That
county's not
just
told
came
us
up.
about, that are going on in this project community, so. We're the last to know if something's happening, unfortunately.
And then, and another announcement correspondence, it's not on the agenda, it just came up, I believe, a day ago. If anyone had checked the email, I believe I forwarded on to everyone that there's a new development coming to town.
Yes.
It seemed to be, just off the top of my head, it was one parcel going to be subdivided to, I think, 2 churches, and
Yeah,
6 or 7
St.
residential.
Mary's Catholic Church was adjacent to the library. They need to be contacted to present to the council. It needs to be researched thoroughly because in the county documents it says 1 acre parcels are okay in that area, and we have not approved a 1 acre parcel on any residential property in a long time. So I think they have a significant amount of work to do.
I don't know with just this coming to us if they have any of that documentation ready.
It's
for us
all
to look
attached.
at.
It's all attached to the email, plot plan, different things like that.
But it didn't seem like a complete package to me, I saw those.
It's not complete, but it's enough where they need to come and talk to us preliminarily about it. Otherwise, it's going to be a major problem for us down the road.
Is it standard for us to approach them first and ask them to come in, or wait for them to approach us?
I would never wait for anybody to approach us. Once I hear about them, you got to get them in here and get them on the grill.
Is this the one, I think you sent an email just, was it the last day or so?
Yeah, it was
And
very
It
recent.
was a subdivision?
Yes.
Yes.
Set 5 or 7 homes, a church, for the Catholic Church there, and a future expansion area of the church and an open space area.
How large is their parcel?
It's
40 acres, I believe.
Yeah, it's the opposite side of Crown Valley from where.
It's next to the library, right next
No,
door.
no, I know, yeah, it's right there.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how big it was.
I believe it's 40 acres if I recall.
Yeah, 40 acres and 7 single-family
Yeah.
lots.
Because as the general plan stands now, and it will be different soon, potentially, whatever, but, they can go to 1 acre lots as long as the average is 2 acres. under certain circumstances. And those circumstances, which I can go into in great detail if you want, but I don't believe they're present on that property.
I don't either. That's why I think we need to look at them in that control.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware of it, so
Yeah.
everyone
Thank
kind of
you.
read up on it and get our teaching and discuss it next time.
I wonder if they're gonna have to mitigate all the junipers. I mean, it's the same,
They will have to,
same
and
issue.
quite frankly,
Not that I want them to have to be able to do that, don't misunderstand.
no, I
what I'm saying.
understand.
Well, Alan would tell them they're his land.
Let me make sure I say this, let me say, are they going to be required if other people are going to be required? Let me ask the question that way.
Yeah, I would imagine. So I just wanted to bring that up under correspondence, as we're all aware that this is coming up. We should.
Right.
The new map that we recently received from Michelle Bohm with the new routes and the elimination of the route that was going behind the high school and the junior high. So the map is taped to the table. I also brought more of the community notices. You know, they've already started their community meetings. There was one in Pacoima on Saturday. Tonight they've got one in Burbank. So they're starting. We some of us will be attending these community meetings before they get to Acton, simply because we want to know what they're presenting out there before it gets to our community, so I can maybe get something out to everybody on the email or Facebook page as to what's going on. So again, we're scheduled for Saturday, June 6th at 9:30 at High Desert School, and they'll be coming with all their latest information, whatever that might be. And then 3 days after that, on June 9th, the High Speed Rail Authority is meeting. Their board meeting is scheduled here in Los Angeles. Normally they're in Sacramento, occasionally they're in Fresno. So we will be, again, we're still trying to work on getting in a bus through Antonovich's office so that we can try to get a pretty good showing down there for that June 9th meeting.
Where will that be? Downtown?
Yeah.
Do you know where? What office?
Yes.
Yes,
Sorry, no point.
No, tell me, Jack, because
I
I wanted to say it was
maybe it's
Temple,
not.
but it's not.
No, I think it's not.
Usually it's MTA.
What?
Usually it's MTA, so right there, station's at MTA building, so we got.
Yeah, it's right across the, through the big plaza, you know, if you go to the train station.
Okay,
so
okay.
It's on the other side, right? Is that what you're, sort of below the big pipe building?
Okay, okay. I don't think I saw on this notice, of course there's not. That's about it, surprisingly.
Did they, couple things. I did write the position letter, follow-up letter
Right.
on high-speed rail. I sent it around. I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at it.
Yeah, I had a comment on that, I don't know if you saw,
I'm sorry, when did you send it? Because
like, the day or so after you sent it out, it was like a week and a half ago.
Oh, okay,
Right, so about right.
my apologies, I don't think I did see that then.
There was just some language in there that seemed very confusing,
Okay,
and I kind of highlighted and said, I think we need to work on that, because if I can't understand it, then
okay.
I remember this.
Okay,
I'll
I
resend it.
don't, okay, I'd also like to, the high-speed rail folks came, Pam knows this, Dan Richards, excuse me, came and toured around parts of Acton. And I was in the car with him, and Michelle Bain, and Juan Carlos, the engineer. And halfway through that tour, you know, a lot of people went, there were several cars. When I was pressing Mr. Richards on keeping it underground along Angeles Forest and along Aliso and along Red Rover, he said, well, you know, it's such a short distance, you know, people look at it. It's good we're out here, we can see these things because we look at it on a map, it's just such a short distance and we really need to see the effects. And I said, well, we agree a short distance, which is why you need to put it underground. There's no reason when you can do 40 miles or 20 miles underground to have a 3/4 of a mile or half a mile, or in your case, where you are, Ray, a fraction of a mile up to a mile above ground. And then Michelle said, you know, though, we, in a nutshell, she said, we view undergrounding as a mitigation measure. So if we believe that there are noise impacts attributed to these above ground sections in Acton are what we consider significant, then we will consider undergrounding as a mitigation measure for those impacts, okay? Which was astounding to me, because I pointed out to her, why is it only Acton that's getting this treatment of undergrounding as a mitigation measure, not as a straight up alternative? Santa Clarita's getting an underground alternative. Shadow Hills are getting two-thirds of their alternatives are underground. All of Santa Clarita's are underground. All of us have topography. Why is it only our community and Agua Dulce's community where the concept or idea of underground is only offered as a mitigation rather than an actual alternative? I did not get much chance to discuss that with her, so I would like to weave that element into the town council letter before it goes out. So I'd like to amend our vote and add that element in, and I will do that forthwith.
So this was said in the car with you guys?
Yes,
Yes.
This was not said,
right.
because we were in the other car.
I was in the car with Jackie, and Michelle is the one that indicated that. Mr. Richard did not indicate that, but yet Michelle did, and Michelle is a driving force in this whole thing. So I think it could only benefit our position statement by adding an end to there. So I would agree with you on that for sure.
Yeah, I was thrown for a loop that you would actually consider this as a mitigation measure, not as a straight up alternative. Because there is a difference.
And also that they've done it for the Lakeview Terrace people,
Yes.
they've done it for
Yeah, it's not a
Santa
mitigation
Clarita
measure for them.
as
It's
alternatives, so
yes.
we need to make that really
Exactly.
clear.
Now, the difference here, and this is really important, it's not true for all communities. It isn't true for the Hanford people, it isn't true for the San Fernando people, because they have no topography. They have no underground mitigation option viable, okay? Well, yeah, I mean,
It's all,
yeah, I mean, it just, so for communities where there's topography, you know, some communities are getting it, and some communities are only getting it as a mitigation. We have to be the, and that, I think that just came out of Michelle and her idea, because we have backed her into a corner with this whole thing, like, you're doing it for everybody else, you have to give us. You have to give us this mitigation, or you have to give us this undergrounding. And she's trying to, you know, scurry to find a way to not give it to us unless she asks them.
I would agree with that. I think in that same vein, they're looking at a way not to have to redo another map and just to handle it down the road.
Maybe so.
They've got everything all probably drafted up, ready to go to their board for approval, and the last thing they want to do is have to redo a map or anything like that, so we'll just take care of it during mitigation.
Well, it's a
Which is not a good
fundamentally
thing.
different thing,
Absolutely.
Jacqueline.
And I think our letter, though, is more of a factual statement of our position, and so to convey that information into a letter, I think we probably need to shorten on how we got to that information.
Yes.
But just say Michelle Bay
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
said this, and this is our stance on this,
Yeah,
and
right,
keep it
short.
short.
Yeah, we
I
have,
Short and sweet and to
I would
the-
envision that Jackie would put in one more bullet point, something
Yeah.
like that, and just add to what went out last
I
time.
would agree to that, definitely.
so when will this letter go out, Jackie?
Well, I will get it done within the next 2 days.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not
No, I know.
pressuring, I just want to
Can you
know.
tell me what, oh?
Yeah, and everybody should respond repeatedly.
Right.
Are we gonna vote on the revision right now, then?
Yeah,
I
I'd like
think we should.
move to amend the letter it already drafted to add that element.
I would second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All against?
Can I ask a question about this high-speed rail?
And when it gets to unfinished or open
Okay.
forum, we're trying to get through
Sure,
these.
sure.
But I just want to let the audience know that we did do an article, it's written up and was published in the Country Journal last Saturday about our tour. So it explained where we went and what was done.
It was very, very well.
And it's there.
Just didn't
so-
have enough time, really,
Well,
basically.
an hour and a half was ridiculously short, but
But it was well used.
Did
But
they
they-
agree to come back?
they did. Sandy Madsen pressured them.
She's gonna stay on that.
She went right in Dan Richards' face and said,
Nice.
oh yeah, she was nice, she just was firm. And let him know that he didn't get to see Aqua Dulce, and there's a lot more to Acton, and Acton is highly impacted. So we want him back, and he actually said to her that he would like to see some of his board members come with him
Before they vote.
before they vote.
Okay.
Now, whether that's,
Yeah, the committee reports are out of time. Everyone else, next time. Okay.
I also have, did you have these brochures? They came.
Yes,
More
yeah. I
days?
think we've got some.
Announcements?
But,
okay, perfect.
Okay.